look, this was inevitable. This was going to happen at some point. And obviously when the schedule came out that it was going to be Cardinals-Steelers this week, it became a lot more inevitable.
Once every 4 years, you know?
So Max Starks is here. It's Maximum Football. It's Wednesday. That's how this works.
Yo.
Craig Wolfley joined us yesterday because Cardinals are playing Steelers this week.
That's right.
He's joining us right now on the Arizona Sports Line, too. And, Max, why don't you set this up because you host a show with Craig?
Yeah, so not only is he Steelers color analyst for the Pittsburgh Steelers radio network, he is also a co-host with myself of Inside the Locker Room weekly, or I should say daily, out in Pittsburgh on SNR radio from 10 to noon.
Nice.
And so Wolf and I are – one of the Wolves and I.
Yeah, we're going to have to differentiate.
I know, because there's two. I could usually get away with just saying Wolf.
Just saying Wolf,
but now that I have two Wolves in here, Big Wolf and just almost as Big Wolf. Craig Wolfley, who I've known Craig for 2 decades. I've loved Craig. I mean, from him and Tunch early on kind of just embracing me. I mean, I remember, the first time I stepped in for off-season workouts after I got drafted, Craig is in there, and he's teaching boxing class to the offensive linemen and defensive linemen.
Sounds about right.
So that's how I first got introduced, and I've had the glorious opportunity of standing in a couple times over the years to fill in at various points and become a guest on their show. And so now, the opportunity came for me to work for the Steelers, and I got to work with Craig once again. So
he's
very,
here.
very special.
He's here right now.
What's
so
up,
we can
Wolf?
talk some football. What's going on, Wolf?
I got to tell you, I'm a little disappointed, a little miffed. I'm sitting here, my brother, I'm on this show. I'm so excited. You guys are there. And then Max is on, and Max gets walk-in music, right? And we're like, and by the way, here's his brother.
There was walk-in music for years that you didn't know about.
Yes, right, exactly. Okay. That I didn't know about? Or okay.
No, that Craig did not know about.
Craig, by the way, Craig,
I wish I was there in person, man.
If you had walk-up music, what would it be? If
you floored me.
I know, right?
Meatloaf.
Yeah, wow, I can't even think right now.
Okay.
So,
all right,
never mind.
Never mind. Okay, good. We'll play what I think you would like.
You just
okay,
said never
the next
mind
time
to
you
a
join.
question.
Craig, let me ask you this right now in regard to the Steelers game that is coming up. I want to know what both you guys think on this one. What is the number one key to this game as you see it for the Steelers and the Cardinals game coming up on Sunday? Max, you first.
I think one of the biggest things is going to be establishing the run. I think is key for both of these teams.
Okay.
I mean, James Conner versus Jalen Warren / Najee Harris, right? I mean, whoever can establish that line of scrimmage is going to have an upper hand in this. I think both quarterbacks, looking at it, Kyler's still a little rusty. Kenny's starting to come on, but it hasn't been high production with him. So really the run game's the great equalizer that's going to establish the tempo for this game.
And Craig, what about you?
Let's do simple math, okay? How many points are the Steelers averaging on offense? 16, right?
Yeah.
All right. So over the past 7 games, the Steelers are allowing just 15 points per game. Boom. There you go. We win.
The logic is there. There's no doubt about it.
Well, and the Cardinals...
I amaze myself sometimes,
The Cardinals are averaging 17, so this is all like building up to a tie, isn't it? Yeah, like we're going to get a 16 tie.
You just blew apart my whole theory, man.
I was trying to build on it, and I ruined everything. Craig, I'll start with you on this one. Just what is up with the Steelers offense? Because you guys can run the ball, but the quarterback play has been you know what? I'll let you describe it, what the quarterback play has been.
Well, Kenny's had some highs and lows, but look, this is what it is when you got a young buck. You got a young guy taking over. He took over the last how many games into the season? 4 games in the season last year. He's only in his early 23rd game, 24th, something like that. I remember what it was like when Terry Bradshaw stepped on. I was in the huddle with Terry his last game. He played against the Jets, in Chase Stadium. And I remember the ensuing guys, Cliff Stout, Mark Malone. I can go down the line about 18 quarterbacks. But those guys all had it tough because they're always being compared to the Hall of Famer that they were coming in and picking up for after it's over. So I look at this and I look at Kenny's got the same issues. Everybody compares him to Ben, which I understand. Ben's a Hall of Famer to be. I mean, it's going to happen. But at the same time, he's got to develop and be able to be the guy that he's going to be. And I think sometimes it gets to you, and sometimes I think there was some strategery stuff, that you had to – the issues that you got to work through. But if you don't have the foundation of a running game, at least for this a young quarterback, you got real problems. That means you're carrying everything on your shoulders. So you've got to have that run game. And Kenny, he's now got the run game with him as they transfer that to, play action and things of that nature. Well, I think it's all going to blossom and things are going to move forward. But you've got to have that foundation to carry a young buck through the tough times.
Yeah. Craig, I asked you this yesterday, so I'll ask Max this right here about Matt Canada being let go and Eddie Faulkner, the running backs coach, now being elevated to offensive coordinator. Yet Mike Sullivan is still calling the plays. That whole dynamic, how do you think this is going to work, Max?
Well, I mean, getting to watch it live on Sunday, I mean, it looked like it was great because Eddie Faulkner kind of came up with the game plan, kind of went through menu options and creating the template. And then Mike Sullivan was charged with making sure that you put it in the right order. And, you look at how the production came, the first 400-yard production game for the Steelers in 58 games.
Man. Oh, that's
unbelievable.
Right. Now, think about how brutal that is at times.
It's unbelievably brutal.
The fact that you can't get that much production, and then it felt more natural. It felt like you saw them really going into a place where they felt comfortable. Things lined up, things matched up. So I think for now, I would be happy with how it is because seeing that fruit of its labor. Now it didn't yield points. But you got to start somewhere. So I think this is probably a good move for the squad. And you're also getting coaches who are already in the system that have already ingratiated themselves with the players. But there is going to be some negativity, and there's going to be a fallback, a pullback at some point because you can't rely on raw emotion every week.
Talk about the offensive line, if you don't mind, Craig. Where do you rate this offensive line when you compare it to some of the past O-lines?
It's interesting because this offensive line reminds me an awful lot of the line that Max played on, and how by virtue of win after win after win, when they were talked about as being the worst offensive line in football back in 2005, then all of a sudden by process of elimination, they suddenly became the best offensive line after a Super Bowl win. And, it's amazing because this is a line that just couldn't seem to find itself to shoot straight early on, and yet they just kept going after it and working at it, and things started to get together. When you start to get the double teams down, when you start to pick up the run-throughs, when you start to add, as they did in the last couple of games, some traps, some trap passes, some powers with the guard pulling around lead on a lead power and so forth, all of a sudden things start to happen, and guys are executing. I don't care what anybody says. It still comes down to execution.
Yes.
Either you do or you don't.
Yes.
I mean, there's no other way on the offensive line. You either move that man or that man moves you. So I think this offensive line is just getting more wins, getting more experience. They understand that if you got a double team and you got to run through, when to leave the run through. It's not too early. It's not too late. Those sort of things take a while to work out, and I think that's where they've been at it. I think they've just executed well in the last 5 games, superbly well.
Max, how about you? Your thoughts on the O-line?
I think they're growing. I think with the insertion of Broderick Jones, University of Georgia, he's brought an emotional mindset, whereas everybody on that line was kind of very quiet and very reserved. Isaac Seumalo was never a verbal guy. James Daniel was never a verbal guy, nor was Mason Cole, former Cardinal, right? And he's brought an intensity, a youthful exuberance. And if you've noticed, we've had a precipitous uptick in offensive rushing production.
Yes.
And we're the best team in the NFL rushing the football in the last month. We're averaging over 160 yards rushing the football. So that's where you say, oh, okay, they can hang their hat on something. They love hitting people. They love double teams. They love counter game. They love gap action. They love outside zone tosses. And they're getting really good at it. So I'm really happy to see the progress because you were wondering what was it going to be. And now they are finally having an identity. After 3 months of football.
Yes.
Craig, thanks so much for joining us for 2 days in a row, man. We really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Do I get walkout music? I mean, come on, you know?
Hey, Craig, by the way, yes, I'll see you Saturday night, right, bro?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'll call you in a day or so, maybe later on tonight. But
okay,
love you,
good.
Bro. I'll talk to you.
Okay, love you too.
Of course, Max are added Wolfley, you know?
Yeah.
Of course.
Absolutely.
All right, bro.
I'll talk to you in
man.
the morning.
Talk to you.
He got walkout music.
You betcha.
All right, that's Craig Wolfley joining us right there on the Arizona Sports Line.